Near Lake Melvin, the tire impressions left at the crime scene matched Vicky Varner's tires exactly. Also, maggots found on Wendy Wicked's body were examined, and the largest one measured 13 millimeters, which constitutes her being dead for at least 5 days. Fingerprints were scanned at the crime scene and were retrieved. Kingsbury had fingerprints on the vehicle and the victim. Young had fingerprints only in the room. Pullen had them in the car and the room. Varner had her fingerprints on the victim and the room. And Angus had prints on the vehicle and the tire iron. And Mr. Wicked had prints on the vehicle, victim, and the tire iron. The victim's blood type is O negative, which is the blood found on the tire iron and the victim. There is also blood that's O positive, which means Penny Pullen and or William Wicked can both be placed at the crime scene. In the room, the blood type was O positive, which it correlates to the blood of Matthew Young or Vicky Varner. After comparing the suspects with the victim, her car and the blood from the tire iron, and blood from the room, under the victim's fingernail and hair from the room, the DNA was matched through CODIS loci. The blood in the victim's car belonged to Pullen. In the room was either Young or Varner. The DNA under Wicked's nails belonged to Angus, and the hair in the room belonged to the victim's husband. Hair evidence was checked from the victim and the crime scene as well as the suspect's cars. In the suspect's cars, Kingsbury, Pullen, and Angus all had human hair. Young, Varner, and William Wicked had animal hair located in their car. Ballistics of the guns were determined by momentum, velocity, and the mass of the gun. Each of the 8 guns and the 6 ammunitions that could be used they were calculated in order to find the momentum. Results explained that multiple guns and ammunition could have killed Wendy Wicked. In accordance with the autopsy report, the tire iron was put through 3 trials that could calculate impulse. 2 kilogram tire iron, along with either 18.75 meters per second or 20 meters per second, could have killed Wendy Wicked. Wendy Wicked could have also died from a fall from the 3rd floor in the hotel. Although other evidence shows that this is highly unlikely, it's still possible.
Vicky Varner is our primary suspect. During the time of death, Vicky Varner had an unconfirmed alibi for the 9th, 10th, and 11th day that Wendy Wicked was missing. Suspected that Vicky Varner had killed Wendy Wicked. The tire impressions at the scene of the crime matched the tires on her car. She is also a registered gun owner. Out of all the suspects that we have, which could possibly use to incriminate her, as Wendy Wicked was shot with a gun. Not only did she have tire impressions at the scene of the crime, but she also had DNA, fingerprints, and blood samples at the scene of the crime, which proves her presence in the room Wendy Wicked was killed in. Varner's distinguished feud with Wendy Wicked over her issue with the ranch and the road going through her ranch could be a motive for the reason she killed her.
When Wendy Wicked was going to her silly meeting, Vicky Varner was out looking for her. Vicky Varner went into Wendy Wicked's hotel room, and she wasn't there. The reason why Vicky Varner was actually looking for Wendy Wicked was because she wanted to discuss to Wendy about the cattle ranch and the predisposed new road. So Vicky Varner was driving down the road, and she seen Wendy's car pulled off to the side. So Vicky Varner pulled off to the side and started speculating what was happening inside the car. What was happening in the car, from the point of view from Vicky Varner's, was she seen Vicky Winded in the driver's seat, and she seen Pam Pullen in the passenger seat. From Vicky's point of view, she started to see that the two were actually getting in an argument, as she seen Wendy Wicked actually forcibly socked Pam Pullen in the face. When that happened, Pam Pullen ran out the car and left. Vicky Varner actually seen this as a chance to get back at Wendy. So what she did was she got outside of her car, walked towards Wendy, knocked on her window, and wanted to talk to her. When Wendy seen Vicky Varner, she got more mad. So what happened was she got outside her car, and she went in the back of her trunk and got a tire iron. When that happened, Wendy swung once at Vicky Varner as she dodged it. So Vicky Varner went back into her car, went in her glove compartment, and then got the gun. She ran back outside, and as Wendy Wicked seeing the gun, she swung once again, but Vicky dodged it, stepped back, and shot Wendy Wicked in the chest. When that happened, Wendy fell to the ground as she collapsed, and Vicky Varner ran, got the tire iron, and swung and hit Wendy Wicked in the head. So Vicky Varner had to think fast, so what she thought was she grabbed Wendy Wicked, put her in the back of her trunk, grabbed the tire iron, and threw it. Vicky Varner went back to Wendy Wicked's hotel room to where she brought the body up the stairs and laid her down. When Wendy came back conscious, she woke up and she seen Vicky and got frustrated. When Vicky and Wendy Wicked were getting in a fight, Wendy soon collapsed as the trauma got to her brain. Vicky Varner was scared for her life because she thought, what did I do? I killed her. So she she thought to herself that the only way that this could happen is if I throw Wendy Wicked out the window. Vicky threw out Wendy out the window. As she went downstairs, she seen that the body was laying next to a dumpster as she left it. Information from the police report correlates with the evidence that Vicky Varner did kill Wendy Wicked. Both the gun and the tire iron were used against Wicked. The room in the struggle, which strongly incriminates Varner, killed Wendy Wicked. Not only does Varner have a reason to kill Wendy, but she is even more so incriminated by the fact that she didn't have unconfirmed alibis.
On the day of Wendy Wicked's death, Kingsbury, Young, and Pullen all had strong confirmed alibis. Neither Angus nor William Wicked had the correct tire impressions from the crime scene. Though Pullen did have substantial evidence of blood, DNA, and fingerprints in the car, the silly meeting and the fight that broke out would undermine the evidence. William Wicked had blood and fingerprints evidence in the car and on the tire iron, but it is possible that his DNA to be there without being linked to the crime. His hair in the room does not incriminate him because it is possible for his hair to be on her belongings. Angus's DNA under the victim's fingernails could be constituted by hair in the victim's fighting because William Wicked had secretly been cheating on the victim with Angus. Kingsbury does not have substantial evidence to relate her to the murder. The additional information necessary to further this investigation would be the interrogations of each of the suspects. Having an actual autopsy report determining the true cause of death will further the investigation. In addition, additional work that could be done to improve the investigation includes a more detailed alibi for each of the suspects. In addition, checking Varner's gun and magazine to check if it's possible for the bullet and gun would improve the investigation.
For more info, here is Reyes.
Ethical implications for using any of this evidence involves whether or not it is possible to incriminate or exonerate a person based on the evidence from the crime scene here. Basing the conviction and incrimination brings up ethical concerns pertaining to the viability of the evidence from the crime scene. In addition, it concerns the innocence or guilt of the suspects involved in Wendy Wicked's death. We as a team of investigators have discussed the ethical concerns by continuing to use clear and concise evidence taken from the crime scene from the Lake Melvin Lodge. In addition, we acknowledged each of the suspects as innocent until proven guilty in order to be sure of who the primary suspect for the murder was. Bioethical concerns involve the familiar DNA of suspects against the DNA found here. Ethical implications involving civil liberties include the idea that every citizen is innocent until proven guilty. Violations of the rule of law, as well as the constitutional violations, include the concurrence of Kay Kingsbury not being read her Miranda rights. Since Kingsbury was not read her rights, the evidence found cannot be acceptable in the court. Not being read those rights violated the law passed by the Miranda v. Arizona case in 1966.